Who is this child, baby Rumi, and what on earth is going on that has her running for her life?
All right, let's dive into a story that is just packed with chaos, a desperate rescue, and at the very heart of it all, a really bizarre conspiracy. We're going to try and piece this all together, figure out what happened to a child named Rumi, and investigate this central mystery of a woman they're calling Zombie Mira.
And boom, this is where our story kicks off, with this one desperate plea said over and over again. This line just throws us right into the middle of a crisis. You can feel it, right? Someone is in terrible, terrible danger, and the clock is ticking. This isn't just setting the scene, it's a real, frantic call for help.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? Who is this child, baby Rumi, and what on earth is going on that has her running for her life? To figure that out, we've got to dig into the clues, piece together all the evidence, and see if we can actually solve this thing.
Okay, so every investigation has a starting point. For us, it's the flashpoint, the exact moment this crisis really ignites. Let's take a look at the abduction itself, and that immediate, overwhelming sense of danger that kicks this whole story off.
You know, it all starts with just a whisper. Night-night, princess. It sounds so soft, almost gentle, doesn't it? But knowing what comes next, those words are absolutely chilling. Some unknown figure says this, and in that one single moment, Rumi is gone. Her terrifying journey has just begun.
And you can just feel the terror building with every line here. It goes from that initial "help me please" to a flat-out "don't let them catch us." This isn't just one moment of fear, no. This is a sustained, frantic chase. And the panic, well, it's just so raw in every single one of these quotes.
So Rumi has been captured. The situation looks pretty hopeless. But this story isn't just about an abduction. The whole thing suddenly shifts gears and launches into this absolutely wild escape sequence.
Even with all the chaos, there's actually a clear structure to how this escape goes down. It happens in 3 distinct stages, right? First, you've got the abduction with that creepy whisper. Then, the frantic pursuit through the city. And finally, you get this brief moment of relief when they find a temporary safe haven. It's like the anatomy of a rescue.
But this is where the story gets weird. Right at the center of this whole storm is Mira, who is Rumi's mother. Her role in all of this is so confusing, and it raises the biggest question of this entire mystery. Is she a victim, a villain, or something else entirely?
The whole puzzle around Mira gets even deeper when you see these two sides of her. On one hand, she's the loving mother, right? Calling Rumi my baby and our little miracle. But then you get the flip side, people accusing her of being reckless, of putting their lives in danger. So how can both of these things be true? Who is the real Mira?
And then we get this clue. This might be the most important one of all. Please wake up Mira. And yeah, that's probably a typo for Mira. This plea for her to wake up is really our strongest piece of evidence for this whole zombie theory. It suggests Mira isn't in control. Is she being manipulated somehow? Is she in some kind of trance? This isn't about her being a bad person. It suggests she might not even be herself. But look, Mira isn't the only piece of this puzzle. All the evidence is pointing to a much wider conspiracy, a whole web of villains with their own agendas. To really understand what's happening to Rumi and Mira, we have to look at everybody involved.
So let's lay out the key players here. You've got Rumi, she's clearly the victim at the center of everything. There's Mira, the total enigma we've been trying to figure out. Then we see a potential ally, a guy named Gino, who gets thanked directly. And then, pulling the strings from the shadows is our main villain, this unnamed person making all the threats.
So why? Why is all of this happening? What's the motive here? Well, the villain actually makes it crystal clear for us. We're going to make a lot of money together. It just cuts right through all the mystery. At the end of the day, this whole dangerous, terrifying plot is just a scheme for cold, hard cash.
And hey, just in case the greed didn't make it obvious who we're dealing with, the villain spells it out. If you don't do the job, I'll throw you to the sharks. So this isn't just about money. These people are absolutely ruthless. The stakes are literally life or death for anyone who steps out of line.
So, we've pieced together an abduction, a wild escape, and a motive. But this case is so far from closed. As the dust starts to settle, we're left with some major unanswered questions and the dramatic fallout of this whole conspiracy. And then, at the very end of all this, we get this haunting, almost accusatory line. You should have listened to me. Who is saying this, and who are they saying it to? It hints at a whole backstory between these characters, a moment where a warning was ignored. It makes you think this whole disaster could have been avoided, which just makes the mystery even deeper.
Which basically leaves our investigation board just covered in question marks. Like, what is the money-making scheme exactly? Who was that final confrontation between? And of course, the biggest question of all is still just hanging there. What is actually going on with Mira? This case is nowhere near closed.
And that brings us to our final lingering thought. Rumi might have escaped from her immediate captor, sure, but the ruthless people who are pulling the strings, they're still out there. And with a conspiracy that runs this deep, you have to ask yourself, was this rescue just the beginning? Is the greatest danger still to come?